Welcome to the Retail Tea Break. Each week, I'll be joined by industry experts, retailers, and product creators to decode the myths, share knowledge, and give you a better insight into the industry. My aim, as always, is to empower retailers and product creators to reach their potential. So, grab your cup of tea, sit back, relax, and listen in. My name is Melissa Moore, and this is the Retail Tea Break. Today, I am joined, by me. Welcome to episode 13 of season 1 of the Retail Tea Break. Can you believe that we're here? It's been 12 amazing episodes, 11 of them with incredible retailers, creators, and industry experts. And today, for a really quick recap before we leave 2021, I'm back for a bit of a rundown of key moments from this season and tell you a little bit about what's coming up next year. So to kick us off, let's go back to season 1, episode 2, with Elaine Kennedy from Hawthorne Handmade Skincare. Elaine popped on the Retail Tea Break to talk about growing a product-based business. It was a brilliant chat. I've known Elaine for a long time, and she was able to tell us exclusively that in 2022, she will be rebranding Hawthorne Handmade Skincare and also coming out with some new packaging. I have to say, I've recently had a sneaky peek and it looks amazing. So Elaine also mentioned about testing your products on customers and retailers and really seeking their advice before you do something like this. So of course, you're not going to take on everybody's opinions, but if you have key loyal customers, if you have key retailers you trust, do get their advice. See what they think. It'll help you in the long term. She also talked about not overcomplicating your product range. Again, go back to what you really believe in. Go back and listen to what your customers want. And interestingly, she also talked about creative and immersive experience, both online and with her. If she's in retailers or people come to her studio, she also likes to get them fully involved. The other thing Elaine touched on, and I wasn't surprised by this, knowing it as well as I do, is the key message of sustainability. And surprisingly for me, throughout this first season of the Retail Tea Break, time and time again, retailers, creators, and even industry experts have touched on just how important this sustainability movement is. It's not going anywhere, and it's no longer a trend. It's hitting us each and every day in every aspect of our life, and therefore, why should the retail industry be any different? Episode 2 then came all the way from Hong Kong with Christiana Ross from Spark Consultancy. Christiana popped onto the Retail Tea Break to talk all about retail customer experience, something I am truly, truly passionate about. So it was a fantastic episode. She talks about creating an emotional connection. And what she meant by that was learning to listen to your customer. So whether that's reading their reviews, whether that's listening to the way they comment or they talk to you in store about your product, or even talk about your brand, really listen to them. You'll gather a great amount of information from these people. Develop a rapport as well. So really start to learn to engage and interact with your customers. Again, whether that's online or whether that's face-to-face, because you'll really gather some incredible information. Earn their trust, build integrity into everything you do. It will really serve you well. And then, of course, don't oversell. Christiane spoke at length about serving from the heart, and I thought it was a really beautiful way to talk about the mix of selling and service and how when you get it right, it's amazing. And of course, the payback at the end of the day, you'll see on your bottom line. Episode 4 blew my mind. It's not an area of the retail industry I know much about, but Kira Sheehan from Orb Media popped onto the Retail Tea Break to talk about next generation immersive e-commerce. She had some incredible data. She was able to tell us some amazing stories, just how well interactive e-commerce is now coming at us. So it's obviously started with the big high-end luxury houses. They're the ones with the money after all. But you know what? In time, it'll really come down to the normal everyday retailer, the maker, to be able to show our product to the customer in the best way possible. Kira also hit on something that I talk about an awful lot, and that's about being authentic. If you can really show the customer who you are, they'll keep coming back. And not only will they keep coming back, but they'll keep buying and they'll spend more. And they'll also bring their friends and family with them. So it's win-win for everyone. Episode 5 was a great chat. I spoke to Willie and Cheryl from the Irish brand Ballyshane. They popped onto the Retail Tea Break to talk about the reality of selling. And actually during the conversation, we seemed to come full circle from the beginning of Ballyshane, really when the guys took a year out before even coming to market to do their research. Again, they really wanted to understand their customer, and it's worked for them. And even coming right up to date at the start of lockdown back in 2020, they weren't overly happy with their website, but they've reworked it with their customer in mind. And so much so, even more recently, Cheryl's gone back out to meet the customer face to face in the markets. So for them, the customer journey is ever evolving, but they're really learning to understand how best to meet their customer needs, and therefore they're selling in the best possible way to them. Willie also mentioned in this episode not to oversell. He said, be really, really careful whether you're selling to customers, whether you're selling into a retail store to the owner or to the buyer of a larger chain. Don't overpromise. It isn't worth it in the long run. He said you'd much rather be able to deliver the goods that they want in a timely manner than actually burn your bridges. The other interesting aspect of this conversation with Willie and Cheryl from Ballyshane was that Cheryl talked about the price and quality issue. And actually what she's seeing directly from consumers right now is that they're actually willing to spend a bit more for a better quality product. And of course, research recently is telling us this, that most consumers now are willing to pay that little bit extra for pieces that do last longer and that serve them better. And of course, this is all coming back to the fact that most consumers now are educating themselves more in selling and even buying in a more sustainable fashion. Episode 6 then, again with the sustainability aspect in mind, I spoke to James Byrne from Fairly, the Irish online retailer. We talked about environmentally friendly retail. So he had some fascinating tips about how he buys and why he buys what they sell on Fairly. And again, it comes down to the customer. Some other tips then he had for running a successful e-commerce business included resourcing it, just like you would a physical retail store. And again, a lot of emerging new e-commerce businesses don't get this fact. They just see having the platform there, having a few boxes ready to pack, but they don't truly understand the time it takes to really deliver a successful experience for the customer. James also mentioned about taking the time to build and grow your online presence. He said it doesn't happen overnight, and to be as successful as Fairly have been, you have to work on it. This is organic, it's natural engagement, it's working at it day after day, and it's showing up on various platforms, in various magazines, and talking about the brand, but it's working for them. He also said you need to ensure that you have really good quality imagery and copy. This is your shop front. This is how the consumer is going to buy from you. So you need to make it look really enticing. And then a final note for James and episode 6 from Fairly, he had mentioned being up for a couple of awards. And this, when we recorded, was the week of their first birthday, which was exciting enough. And I'm happy then to tell you that a couple of weeks later, Fairly won the Pac-Man Award that they were up for. So I'm delighted for them. And I'm sure there's loads more good stuff to come from them over the next few years. Episode 6 then was fascinating. I got to speak to Kelly Hoey. someone I'm a huge fan of. And we talked all about networking. The title of episode 7 then of the Retail Tea Break was making it easy for your network to help you. And isn't that the goal at the end of the day when you think about it? Networking is no longer just about handing out business cards at boring meetings, but it's about engagement. It's that interaction. And it's actually knowing and understanding who's around you so you can help them as much as they can help you. And Kelly talks about a couple of questions really to kind of ask yourself. Who is your ultimate customer? And where are they hanging out? And this to me was fascinating. If we can all sit down and grab that cup of tea and start to really think about where our customers are right now, what they need from us, then we'll be able to figure out how best we can serve them. So as you can see, even so far, halfway through the Retail Tea Break season 1, we keep coming back to the customer. By far, the most important aspect of all our businesses is the customer. How are we actually feeding them? How are we involved with them? And how can we sell to them in a much better way? Episode 8 then, Charlene Flanagan of Ella & Joe Cosmetics. And we talked all about the unboxing experience. And if you remember, Charlene recalled that, you don't just buy products from Ella & Joe, but when you receive them, you get 2 gorgeous little chocolates and a little tea bag, alongside a really lovely kind of card from the girls that has a beautiful little sentiment on it, a little discount code, and details then of how you can further connect with them. And that's the one thing I really took from this episode is herself and Neve Ryan, her co-founder, have really done their homework when it comes to knowing who their customer is. Her name's Megan. That Charlene was even able to tell us her age, her demographic, where she hangs out, what her pain points are, and just how busy she is as a mum. So it was fascinating then to see the journey that Ella and Joe's been on to enable them to build a business that really suits their customers' needs. Charlene was able to describe how they deliver excellence in customer experience, which is why their unboxing experience is so strong and for me, so memorable. And it really is for them about building communication, whether that's face-to-face on a video, whether that's on their website, whether it's in any of the copy that goes out to the media. Communication to Megan and all the customers like her has to be shareable. It has to be enjoyable and fun. It's got to be exciting because that's exactly who Charlene and Neve are. It's got to be memorable, but it's also got to be informative. And again, Charlene spoke about being an educator. It's not just about selling a product for her. It is so much more. And that was really, really clear in episode 8. Episode 9 then was fascinating. Tara Rafter, the navigation coach, joined me to talk about the coping with the chaos of retailing right now in the run up to Christmas. And you know what? Tara, as a retailer in years gone by, shared some hilarious stories about her journey in the retail industry over the years. And she really understands where most of us are coming from. So her top tips then for coping with the chaos at the busiest time of the year in the golden quarter, included the 5 top tips. Get enough sleep. It's something none of us ever do at this time of year. Fuel and nourish yourself. And again, when we're all so busy grabbing a break here and grabbing a break there, and the tins of sweets start to be opened, it's not something we're very good at. Drinking lots of water was her 3rd tip, closely followed by getting active, which actually, she said, releases the tension that tends to build up during the working day. And finally, then her 5th tip on coping with the chaos of retailing at Christmas was to use your downtime wisely. So not to be running around like a mad thing doing stuff for other people, but actually just resting and enjoying yourself. Tara also went on to talk about how we can support each other at this time of the year, especially if you're in a busy store, to mind each other and your team. And she also then talked about how we can help the customer, because again, COVID hasn't left us. It's like, how can we support our customer in the best possible way to enable them to shop with us in a really safe and happy environment? Episode 10 then of the Retail Tea Break saw me talk to Sinead Carroll from the Irish Blogger Agency. We talked about influencer marketing for retail. Again, this was a fascinating conversation for me because it's a question I'm asked all the time is, what on earth is influencer marketing about and how can it best help my business? And I'm one of these people that hadn't got the answer. So for Sinead to come on and demystify influencer marketing really helped and support me to be able to share that knowledge with all of you. And a key moment from this episode was Sinead telling us to decide on our KPIs. And it's not something I'd necessarily thought of. So we all understand that we need to get a return on the investment. But actually, why are you making that investment in the first place? Is it to increase brand awareness? Is it that you want a direct response, that you want sales from the influencer help? Or is it to improve brand advocacy? So again, if this is something you're interested in, I'd urge you, go back and have a listen or have a watch of episode 10 with Sinead Carroll. Episode 11 then with Becky Harris from Fishers of Newtown Mount Kennedy was really all about the mix or the mess of the last kind of 2 years to COVID, our customers, and the caring environment she feels that retail really is. Becky was able to talk about the impact that the last 2 years has had on her small family business, but also the impact it's had on her customers and the team that work for her. And she really strongly believes in bringing that team on that journey each and every day in the decisions that she makes. So it was a really interesting, heartfelt conversation about the ups and the downs, the emotional gambit, as she called it, of the last 18 months to 2 years. Episode 12 then, the final episode before this of season 1 of the Retail Tea Break, saw me talk to Ilana Plenkenpole. This was a brilliant conversation, one which surprised me in many ways as we talked about running a craft business whilst having a full-time job. Ilana spoke at length in ways about running a craft business that I'd never even considered before. And actually what she talked about was that working for someone else gave her more clarity. It gave her structure and organization. And it made her stand back and look at the strategy she had for her own business even more. But deep down, more than anything, it made her efficient and it made her more creative. She felt that she wasn't sitting there for days on end, forcing herself to be creative. But when she was in the mood, she was creating some incredible work. So Ilana, of course, if you listen right to the end of that episode, you'll hear her third job is on the way. And I'm wishing Ilana all the best for 2022. So that's a quick recap of season 1 of the Retail Tea Break. So before I let you go, some really exciting news that as we draw to the end of this year, and I suppose I look back on all the incredible businesses I've had the pleasure of working with, whether that's as a consultant or as a mentor to retailers and creators, or even as a trainer. And my goodness, at the last kind of tally up I did, I've worked with over 2,500 people this year, delivering training on retail aspects, sales, and even customer experience. If some of them have joined me on short 2-hour workshops and sessions, and some of them have been with me for several days, both online and in person. And it's been amazing. I get so much out of these sessions and working with such incredible people, as I hope all of them have. And so far, so good this year. Lots of my clients have had an amazing year. There have been millions added to bottom lines of the various businesses I've worked with. And I'm truly proud, but also I'm chuffed for the amount of work, hard work and dedication that this industry brings. It is going through a tough time at the moment, but I really feel that 2022 will be super. So talking of 2022, watch this space. So just before season 2 of the Retail Tea Break launches next year, I'm launching a little something of my own. So if you've had an eye on my social media over the last few weeks, you'll see something interesting is coming. Something I've been asked for by both retailers and makers, a way of working on your own, but with me in the background, helping, guiding, and support you. So keep an eye and watch this space, but I've got a little something coming early January 2022 that you might just enjoy. So before I let you go, I'd just like to say I hope you all have a very restful end to 2021. If you have enjoyed the Retail Tea Break this year, please like, subscribe, share, and even comment on this podcast episode. I'd be delighted if you push it out across your own platforms or share it with your friends and family within the industry, because my goodness, I've enjoyed it. I have learned so much this year that I hope you've enjoyed it too. And I'll see you back in 2022 for season 2. Can you believe it? Season 2 of the Retail Tea Break.